Well, good morning. Happy Wednesday to all of you. It is, oh my goodness, what a beautiful day out it was this morning. I mean, it was actually, it could have been maybe a few more degrees and I might have been cold this morning. It was wonderful, but it's that time of year. We're almost 2 months past the solstice or whatever, the summer solstice. So it's not surprising that the nights are starting to get colder and the days still may be hot, but the nights are getting colder and the mornings are sure getting colder, and it's not going to be too much longer. I remember when we lived in Denver, I mean, it was always so nice, and I was like, man, we're going to have a great Halloween. And then, of course, Halloween would come and all of a sudden it'd be minus 10 degrees or something like that. So it hits you really quickly. So enjoy every day that you can. Hey, it's good to be with you. We're going to talk about an interesting topic today. Has a lot of wide-ranging applications. I don't know how much of it we'll cover, but we're going to talk about Jacob and this whole sheep thing. That's pretty interesting. So you don't want to miss that. Before we get into it, though, just a couple announcements. First, we do have one birthday today. Lexi Olander. I don't know if you know her. She's a wonderful young lady, a high school kid. Who's very, very sweet. So happy birthday, Lexi. And then let's see, the hurricanes are coming. So Marco, I guess, petered out, but we have Jennifer's parents live in Houston. So we've been kind of keeping track of them. They've got all their food. They've got all the water. They moved about 3 or 4 years ago. They were right on the bay. And so when the storm surge would come up, I think they had 9 feet of thing. And if it was over 9 feet, it was going to flood the house. And they never really had that. But now they're saying this might be a 9-foot storm surge. So, but we're not worried about them this time because they're not in the way of the storm surge. So, I mean, they could lose electricity. They could lose power. They have they have a backup generator, but they've got food. They've got water. So not really worried about them. Although they're saying a category 3, which is what? It's like 100-mile-an-hour winds. So I'm trying to remember all the trees that he's got. I don't think he's got one big enough and close enough to the house that it could fall in the house, but you just never know. I mean, you just get the wrong tree in the wrong location. And, so if the hurricane's going to hit tonight at midnight. And if there's property damage or something and they need, someone to step in, I might have to run to Houston real quick, but I won't run. I'll drive. I'll get there quickly, but we'll just have to see how that goes. But so keep all of those Houstonians, actually the whole entire coast of the Texas, that whole Texas coast. Keep them in your prayers, because it could be category 3. It could actually go up higher depending upon the path. Apparently there's this one certain path that if it ends up in that path, there's a lot of deep, warm water, which adds a whole bunch of energy into the storm. And it can go rather quickly from a category 3 to a category 5. So keep them all in your prayers because, category 5 is devastating. I mean, the people that live through those kind of things have they have years and years worth of damage that they have to clean up after, and it's no fun. Let's see. So that's that. Oh, the other thing I've been noticing lately, I don't know if you've noticed this, but over the last week or so, I've been seeing study after study after study of things that are coming in from the coronavirus. And I think there's a reason for that. I mean, it kind of like people realized it was a bad thing, kind of about March and April. And so you had institutions all across the world that started into research projects. And those research projects typically take 3 months minimum, 4 months. So if they started it in, say, April, that's May, June, July, August. So right now we are starting to see come in, oh my goodness, it seems like every day I see 1 or 2 or 3 different research projects that were done. I mean, some of them are the gold standard, right? Double-blind, randomized control, placebo trials. Those are showing up. Other, retrospective trials. All these different types of trials that people are looking into for all sorts of different treatments are starting to come in. I saw one today that there is there's a chemical and insect repellent that is that can help with coronavirus. Now, don't go snorting insect repellent. This could be something that if they figure it out, maybe it's something that could add to water or something like that. And you might be able to go to a room and spray the room rather quickly, and it would get rid of all the, coronavirus or something like that. So, about the time that we figure this out, maybe it'll have petered out across the world anyway, because it does seem like it's all following the Gompertz curve, which is it reaches a peak and then it starts rapidly declining, and it doesn't seem to be a secondary wave anywhere. We haven't seen one yet. So I think, oh my goodness, I think so close. We are so close, my friends, so close in a whole bunch of different areas. So keep everybody in your prayers, because we need to be close, because this thing is just really starting to get to a lot of people. Had a meeting yesterday with somebody, and man, if you are a parent of small children and you're working from home, and both parents are working from home, the kids aren't in school, and you're all competing over the same internet, and everybody has to try to do online classes, I am so grateful that there's my kids are kind of gone right now, because to be a young parent through this, you need to applaud them and give them all the love you can possibly muster, because this is a hard thing to go through if you're a young parent. I can guarantee you it is a hard thing to go through. My daughter in Chicago with 2 kids, but they're not in school yet. So she's not shifted yet, to the school thing. But if she had sent them to school for a year or 2, and then all of a sudden, planned her life, with the kids gone, and all of a sudden they come back, that's a major shift. So we'll, keep them in your prayers. All right. So that's everything I wanted to say about the hurricane. It's everything I wanted to say, the pandemic. So here we are in Genesis, and where we left off is that Jacob is at Uncle Laban's house, and the little guy is just having babies left and right. He's having babies with Leah. He's having babies with Rachel. He's having babies with Leah's servant, having babies with Rachel's servant. He's got 11 kids, 12 if you include Dinah, who's the girl. And he is one happy little man. I guarantee you he's going around. So, it's Wednesday. Wednesday, you can tell a joke, right? So, Lena and Oli, this is a Lena and Oli joke. So Lena and Oli living on the farm. They decided that they're going to raise some pigs. So they had not raised pigs before, but they think it's about time to start, doing something different. And they've done a lot of different things, but it's time to raise pigs. So Oli goes down to the store, and he picks up a pig, and he brings the pig home and puts the pig in the pig pen, and he's looking around, and pretty soon he says, there's no other pigs. It happened in here. So I don't know what's going on. So he's talking to his neighbor, and the neighbor says, well, you need to have more than one pig here. He says, why don't you come and bring your pig over to my house? And so Oli says, okay. I says, I'll try that. So he brings his pig. He puts the pig in the wheelbarrow, and he wheelbarrows the pig over to the neighbor's house. And he gets to the neighbor's house and drops off the pig, and he goes home. And then at night he picks up the pig in the wheelbarrow and brings it home, and he puts him in the barn, and still no more pigs. He said, I don't know what's going wrong. This is very, very strange. And so he tries this for about a week, 2 weeks, and finally goes over to his neighbor, and he says, I don't know what's going wrong. The neighbor says, well, do you have any more pigs? And he says, no, it's just the one pig. And he says, well, tell me what goes on. He says, well, every day, I wake up and I go into the barn, and there's the pig, and he's already in the wheelbarrow, and he's got a big smile on his face. So, this little levity there. So, you got to have more than one pig. You got to have a male pig. You got to have a female pig. and the male pig going every day over to the other barn. It's just a pretty fun thing to do. Anyway, so that's Jacob. Jacob he's in the wheelbarrow, just having fun with all the other ladies that he's able to impregnate. And he's got 11 kids, and life's going well. So, I think Jacob, is all of us, but I think Jacob's a pretty smart guy. I think he's conniving. I think he's sneaky. I think he's observant. I think he's, all of us. He spent 14 years in Laban's house before he could get Rachel and Leah, and now he's spent some more time to have all these different kids. So he's been away from his homeland for a long time. And now he's got wives, he's got children, he's got, a few animals, he's built, a life and a legacy, but it's time for him to go home. So we're going to pick up the story then. We finished at Genesis chapter 30, verse 31. So now let's just see what happens in, we start in verse 24. We're going to start in verse 25. So let's just take a look and see what happens. So after Rachel gave birth to Joseph, this last boy for right now, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me on my way so I can go back to my homeland. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and I will be on my way. You know how much work I've done for you." So right now, Jacob is still living under the tent, if you will, or the tribe of Uncle Laban. And so Uncle Laban is the king of the tribe. He's the oldest guy. He's got daughters and sons and flocks and all this sort of thing. And then he's got his nephew. Is it his nephew? Jacob there. And Jacob, or son-in-law, Jacob is there with the two daughters, and he's starting to, come into his own. He's now got all these children, and he's been watching Laban's flocks. And we've talked about this before, but Jacob's like not going to grow anymore unless he separates himself from Laban. And so he gathers up the courage. He's learned this lesson before. It's like, if I'm going to continue to grow anymore in my life, I can't stay here under the protection of Uncle Laban. I've got to come into my own, and I want to go to my homeland. Now, probably in the homeland with Esau, his brother, his twin brother, things have cooled off, but he doesn't know what's going to happen when he goes back to the homeland. He just knows there's something drawing him back to the homeland. He can't stay where he is. And so he goes to Uncle Laban and he says, "Listen, I got to go back to my own homeland. So let me have my wives and my children. I've served you, and I'll be on my way. You know how much work I've done for you." Now, he hasn't really talked about any of the other things that he might get when he leaves. I mean, obviously, he's been serving Uncle Laban in the flocks. Crops you can't really take with you. Food you can take with you if it's properly, salted or whatever. But you can't really take a whole lot with you if you're going to go back to the homeland. Except maybe your wives, maybe a few animals if you've got any. But all the animals are now Laban's, right? He's been serving Laban. So technically, even though Jacob has been out there flocking and shepherding Laban's, entire flocks here, they really belong to Laban, at least at this point. So how's this separation going to work? So that's how we're going to get into this. So we'll start in verse 27. Laban said to him, "If I have found favor in your eyes, please stay. I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you." And he added, "Name your wages and I will pay them." Now this is interesting. So Laban has been apparently very fruitful. He's gained a lot of flocks. He's gained a lot of power. And now he's got all these grandchildren that he loves. He's got his two daughters that he loves. He really doesn't, Jacob doesn't really need to leave. And Laban here is now trying to make a deal with him. Like, man, I don't think it's time for you to leave. And he says, I've been learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you. Well, whether or not it's divination or not, I don't know. This is Laban, who is not with the tribe of Abraham. Well, I guess he is. But he's doing divination, which he probably shouldn't do. well, you shouldn't do divination. And but you shouldn't, if he has been doing divination, you learn from God that he's supposed to stay, that is one thing. But I'm not sure that. He's like, God's telling me you got to stay. But instead of saying God's telling me you got to stay, he's saying I've learned through divination that you got to stay. So I don't know if Laban has learned through divination, if he's really practicing dark magic here, or if it's just he's trying to grasp at anything to try to get, Jacob to stay. But this is what he says. He says, name your wages and I'll pay them. Well, let's see what happens. Jacob says to him, you know how I've worked for you and how your livestock has fared under my care. The little you had before I came has increased greatly. Aha, yes, it has. And the Lord has blessed you wherever I have been. But now, when may I do something for my own household? What shall I give you? He asked. So this is again. So Jacob really truly is the man of God here, I think. Jacob truly has learned from his father Isaac, grandfather Abraham, and has really followed God. Jacob knows, because he got the promise from God, that there's going to be an increase, and the increase is because of God, and Jacob is the benefactor of that increase. And so Jacob knows this. His father told him this. His grandfather told him this. This is all for you, Jacob. You are the legacy. You're the number one child. It all comes through you. And so Jacob knows this. But Jacob's like, well, I appreciate that very much. But I need to create my own household. It is time for me to break free and be my own man in charge of my own household and be the man that God's created me to be. And there's time, we all go through this, you have discussion with your children, and they're living under your house and they're like, we like living under your house because you're in charge. You make all the decisions. You make it safe for us. But at some point you've got to kick them out and let them be free and learn how to, how manage their own house and, get married and manage all that. I mean, at some point you can always be there for them. You can always give them guidance and love and protection and all that. But at some point they gotta get out of the house. It's interesting. This generation, we did a demographic report. We've been doing some studying, and the major demographic, there's 3 major demographics here in the Vail area. And the third largest major demographic is what they call boomerangers, which is where the children haven't quite left home yet. And it's not because they're not maturing or anything. It's just the economic conditions and the way life works and the connections that we used to have into the world around us aren't working. And for a lot of reasons, and none of them are really bad, there's a lot of kids that are still, sticking close to home. They're living at home or they're sticking very, very close to home. And that is an active part of our community. The thing is that they're not necessarily connecting to churches by going to church on Sunday, but they need spiritual guidance, and they're on YouTube and they're on Facebook and they're on Instagram, and they're getting all their information from a whole bunch of different areas. And churches need to step up and provide good quality information and content for these kids, because they may not be, they're highly curious. A lot of them are still religious because they've learned from their parents and their grandparents, and they see how it's impacted them, and they want to be like that. But they're a lot of them don't even want to step foot in churches because the society around us is saying that churches are, I wouldn't say evil, but they're power hungry, they're corrupt. It's all about the churches, and it's not about the people that they're serving. I mean, there's a lot of churches like that. And so the Christian church in the United States today has to try to figure out how to reach these kids that may not step foot in church, but they desperately need to have connection with the life creator of the life, creator of life. So anyway, because these kids, now they're coming to the point where they need guidance and training and help, because now they're starting to get married and have children and trying to figure out how to be a parent and all that sort of thing. And some parents, some of these kids are still around their parents. They're very helpful, but some of them are not and they still need that Christian guidance and training that is so important, so that they can come into their own and be, great parents, because they're wonderful. I mean, I've been around this generation. My kids are this generation, but I've also been, a pastor with a lot of these kids in this generation. They're awesome kids. They truly are awesome kids. They're going to change the world. My prayer is that they don't get disconnected from the creator of the universe. And as they go through parenting and struggles of life and all that they know that there's somebody that they can cling to that loves them more than anything. I don't know how I got off on that. But so Jacob now is like, Uncle Laban, I appreciate it, but I'm going. Well, let's see what happens. Don't give me anything, Jacob replied, but if you will do this one thing for me, I will go on tending your flocks and watching over them. Let me go through all your flocks today and remove from them every speckled or spotted sheep, every dark-colored lamb, and every spotted or speckled goat. They will be my wages. Now, this is interesting. So typically goats and sheep aren't spotted or speckled or dark, right? They're usually more cream colored. And I'm guessing that if Jacob looked in the sheep, he probably saw more, more white sheep than the speckled dark or, speckled, spotted or dark sheep. Maybe it was 5, 10, 15, 20. I don't know. It's not the majority. I'll tell you that. It's probably somewhere in the 10 to 20% of the sheep, which seems like probably the right, breaking apart. And so what he's saying is let's separate the sheep now. Give me all the spotted, speckled, dark sheep. I'll take those, and then you can have the rest of the sheep. I mean, that's a nice way to break apart the sheep, and then we're gonna, then I'm gonna leave. And you'll know that I've got my sheep, you've got your sheep, because of the whole spotted, speckled thing. And Uncle Laban's like, well, this seems like a good deal. I look out at my flocks, and I don't see a whole lot of spotted, speckled, dark sheep and goats. But I see some, and that's enough for him to get him on his journey. And, he's a smart guy. He can maybe increase these. Seems like a good division of the sheep. And it's probably a great division. But Jacob's a little sneak here. So let's just see what happens. So this is verse 33, about 4 lines down. They will be my wages, and my honesty will testify for me in the future that whenever you check on the wages you have paid me, any goat in my possession that is not speckled or spotted, or any lamb that is not dark colored, will be considered stolen. Agreed, said Laban, let it be as you've said. That same day he removed all the male goats that were streaked or spotted, and all the speckled or spotted female goats, all that had white on them, and all the dark-colored lambs, and he placed them in the care of his sons. And then he put a 3 days journey between himself and Jacob, while Jacob continued to tend the rest of Laban's flocks. So this is interesting. He pulls out. He removed all the male goats that were streaked, spotted, and all the speckled female, and all the dark, and he placed them in the care of his sons. And then he put a 3 days journey between himself and Jacob, while Jacob continued to tend the rest of Laban's flocks. Interesting. Let's continue reading. Jacob, however, took fresh cut branches from poplar, almond, and plane trees, and made white stripes on them by peeling the bark and exposing the white inner wood of the branches. Then he placed the peeled branches in all the watering troughs, so that they would be directly in front of the flocks when they came to drink. When the flocks were in heat and came to drink, they mated in front of the branches, and they bore young that were streaked or speckled or spotted. Jacob set apart the young of the flock by themselves, but made the rest face the streaked and dark-colored animals that belonged to Laban. Thus he made separate flocks for himself and did not put them with Laban's animals. Whenever the stronger females were in heat, Jacob would place the branches in the trough in front of the animals so that they would mate near the branches. But if the animals were weak, he would not place them there. So the weak animals went to Laban and the strong ones to Jacob. In this way, the man grew exceedingly prosperous and came to his own large flocks and female and male servants and camels and donkeys. So this is interesting. So Jacob, all of a sudden, all the speckled, spotted, dark, they're all gone, and all he's left is with white sheep, and they're breeding, and all of a sudden you get speckled, spotted, dark sheep again. Now Jacob thinks it's because of this, because he put peeled branches in the watering troughs, and he did all this fancy stuff, and it's not because of all this stuff. I mean, I don't think so. I think it's because you can get recessive genes in sheep and goats. So you might have speckled recessive gene in a male and a female goat, and then all of a sudden they have, children, and they can be spotted or speckled. You don't have to have a male and a female that are obviously carrying the recessive spotted gene to have this. Now, Jacob doesn't know this. He is not a geneticist. He hasn't followed, 19th, 20th century genetics. He thinks it's because of the poplar tree, the bark and all that sort of thing. I don't think, there's nothing here that says it's the power of God that's changing it, right? And Jacob prayed to God and said, "Dear God, I will set up sticks, and if I set up sticks with the poplar plant and all this, and they mate, then, give me more, goats that I want." No, I mean, this is just genetics that's going on. But he's getting a large and prosperous, his own flocks, his own. So, I mean, whatever he's doing, he's being a little sneaky here, right? Because he's taking the strong ones and giving the weak ones back away. So he's not dumb. He's sending back, if you will, the weak ones. But he's growing into his own. He's becoming prosperous in his own large flocks. And I just want to finish this last thing. So Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, "Jacob has taken everything our father owned and has gained all this wealth from what belongs to our father." And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it had been. And then the Lord said to Jacob, so now we have God, "Go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you." So there you have it. He makes a deal with Laban. He separates, the goats based upon spotted, speckled, dark sheep and goats. The sons are not all that great at sheep herding. Obviously, Jacob is. He's smart. He has done a good job by raising the flocks. It doesn't take him long before he is able to have his own flock that is all strong and ready for the journey. And the sons, of course, are complaining. Jacob's keeping all the good sheep, we're getting all the bad sheep. No, it's just that you haven't figured out how to be good sheep herders. Jacob has. And now Jacob has enough wealth. My goodness, he's got sheep, he's got wives, he's got servants, he's got everything. And now he can go back to his homeland with his head high on his shoulder saying, "I did it. I went to Uncle Laban and became my own man. And now I'm coming back and I'm going to run the tribe. It'll be my tribe because I got the birth order blessing. I got the blessing, and it's all with me." So, I got the birthright and the blessing. And so I've now come into my own, you could say. And now I'm ready to take the mantle of leadership. I guess he's Simba in The Lion King, where he goes off and stays away from the pride for a long time and grows into a full-grown lion. Now he has Nala. I mean, it's the classic story, if you will, of boy is destined for greatness. Boy has some tragedies in his life. Boy sticks to God, stays close to God, and he does some hard things. He leaves without anything. He goes to Uncle Laban, and at Uncle Laban, he picks up 2 wives, 11 children. herds, flocks, servants, and everything. And I mean, it really truly is a remarkable success story. I mean, we should be proud of Jacob at this point because he has done well for himself, and he's not. I don't know if he cheated with all the sheep and the goats. I mean, I get the impression that he didn't. I mean, when you read it, it sounds like he may have been, and maybe he was taking the strong ones, but maybe he realized that the sons, they weren't really gonna do well anyway. I don't know. I mean, you can go back and debate that, but I believe that Jacob, he might have been a little sneaky, but I do believe he's an honest man, and I do believe that he's trying to do right by everybody. But what he really wants more than anything, is to go back to his homeland and take back the mantle of leadership that was given to him by God. And he didn't want to do it at home. He wanted to go and make it of himself. Now, this resonates highly with me. I've always, it just resonates highly with me. I've always wanted to, I've got this huge streak of pride in me that is horrible, that I've always wanted to make it on my own terms, on my own, on my own, which at some level is pride. It's huge pride because none of us ever make it on our own. Jacob would never have made it if Laban had not taken him in, given him the 2 daughters. You can say, well, 7 years of service or 14 years of service is good compensation for the daughters. I mean, you could debate that about how, but he was still under the protection of Laban. Laban obviously did all these deals with him. I mean, and he leaves him, I think, in a fair way. He comes in a fair way and he leaves in a fair way. But Jacob has done very, very well for himself. And I think that's something to be proud of. And there is something about leaving home, making a name for yourself. I don't want to make a name for yourself, leaving home and doing your own thing and, trying to make it on your own resources. You'll never do it because you're always relying on other people. So, but at some point, I guess what I'm trying to say is at some point you have to leave the comfort of your surroundings and move out and just basically stand up for yourself and be your own person, be your own man, be your own wife, get a family, all that sort of thing. I mean, that's just part of growing up. And Jacob has done that. So that's where we are. So the Lord said to Jacob, go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. And so that is now the command of Jacob. That's the end of verse 3. We'll pick it up at verse 4 tomorrow. Let's close in prayer. Dear God, thank you for this study today. Thank you for the example of Jacob. Continue to be with us as we navigate life. Help us to know that you're always with us. And be with us until we meet again tomorrow. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so that's the end of our study today. Thanks for joining me. We will get again tomorrow, and we'll have a great study. And I will see you then. Take care. Bye.